It's a go with a light, diddle, diddle, it's a go do, it's a go with a light, diddle, 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 it's a go with diddle, 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 it's a go do, it's a go with a light, diddle, diddle, it's a go do, it's a go with a light, diddle, 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 it's a go with a light.
Needs more salt. Get away from that big apple jam. Jemima bought that over for our guest.
Our guest. You got the house turned upside down for our guest. I'm sorry now we ever let Eli talk us into taking him.
Well, it's too late now. He's on the way. Land of glory, it's him! Woo! Answer the door, Finn! I'm not fit. Answer the door!
I got me old pants on, girl.
Go upstairs and put on a decent pair of pants this minute. Take off that hat! It's only Eli.
What are you doing coming in the front door like that?
You're checking to see if everything's nice and clean, Finn. Don't worry, Eli. I've been at the house all week.
Is his bedroom comfortable?
She gave him our mattress and bought new sheets.
Finn used to got those old work pants on.
Oh, leave me alone, will you? You think King George was coming with all the fuss?
Look, there's nothing wrong with having things nice and tidy in front of strangers, is there, Bertha?
Oh, Eli, I'm so nervous. I probably won't even be able to pronounce his name.
We'll just call him Professor, that'll do.
I'm sorry now we let you talk us into taking him, Eli. He'll have us driven crack by the end of the week.
You should always try to mix with your betters, Finn Pryor, and remember, you're supposed to tell him sea stories. What's for supper?
I thought we'd give him a nice bit of rabbit stew with Jemima's dumplings.
Rabbit stew? You can't go giving the Professor rabbit stew.
What's wrong with rabbit stew?
Look, didn't I tell you? He's from Australia. Their rabbits got a disease over there. They don't eat them. They think they're pests. Like rats or something.
Well, these haven't got any disease. I snared them myself up to 3 Mile Pond yesterday, especially for him.
That's another reason for not having them then. There's 2 game wardens on the boat. If they drop in here, they'll have you up for trapping out of season.
I'll tell him I had him froze since last winter.
Ah, them fellas can tell. Too bad. Tastes good. Needs more salt, though.
Well, what am I going to give him if we can't give him the stew?
Eli, you got the whole of Pigeon Inlet turned upside down over one visitor who's only going to be here for a few days. It don't make sense, boy.
We got 1 visitor this year, Finn. Next year we'll have 1,000. He's going to publish a book on our accents and folklore. He could put Pigeon Inlet on the map and make us rich.
Well, he probably wants to see us like we really are, Eli. Not all titivated up the way you got us.
Nobody wants to see you the way you are now, Finn. Go change them pants and take off that hat. Oh, there's the coastal boat. I got to go meet him. Find something else for his supper. He won't eat rabbit.
Well, what am I going to get him?
Feed him calves' heads. Probably all he's used to.
Lock the door after you, Eli.
Eli left the door open, so I came in that way. The coastal boat just blew.
I know. He'll be here any minute. Did you bring the cream for the baked apple jam?
Yes, see, Finn don't have it all gone.
Get away from that jam. Next minute you'll be complaining the seeds are under your upper plate and you can't eat your supper.
They are already, girl. Worst thing about that big apple jam is the bloody seeds.
It's him! Put those teeth back in. Oh!
Oh! Watch out, you're gonna walk on them.
I'll get it. Go upstairs and change those pants this minute. And take off that hat!
What's wrong with a working man being seen in his work clothes?
It's only Willis.
What are you doing coming to the front door, Willis? You got mud on your boots.
Eli told me to come in that way. He gave me 50 cents spring spoke to cod dogs on for supper.
Willis, you know nobody can understand you when you talk that fast. What have you got there?
Cod tongues. Eli said to bring them over.
Cod tongues. Now at least we got something for the professor's supper.
Thought we were having rabbit stew.
Eli said not to. The professor's from Australia, where rabbits are like rats, and they turn a stomach.
Besides, there's 2 game wardens off the boat staying over at Sophie's boarding house. That's why we had to keep King George over here.
But you can't go giving them cod tongues either. They'll turn the stomach altogether.
What's wrong with cod tongues? These just first cut out an hour ago.
Everybody likes cod tongues, Jemima.
Everybody in Newfoundland, Bertha. But my own sister down from Boston last summer wouldn't even eat them. And she was born in Pigeon Inlet.
It was just showing off because she was living in the States. She grew up on cod tongues.
Most foreigners don't even know fish got tongues, let alone wanting to eat them.
They'll certainly know that you got a tongue, did Jemima? Here, I'm going to have to change me pants. Soak them in the hot water and salt, will you?
Oh, don't go doing that now.
They've been all over the floor, girl. Besides, they're full of big apple seeds, look.
You'll catch it from Eli if the professor comes in and claps his eyes on them teeth.
Yeah, Professor.
If we can't give him the rabbit stew, and we can't give him the cod tongues, what are we going to give the poor man for his supper? He'll be starved after his boat trip.
Here, Willis. Run into Silas Bartlett's and get us a can of lunch tongue. I'll boil some potatoes and we'll make him a beaten potato salad with some lettuce from the garden.
If you haven't got any lunch tongue, we'll get something else then.
Run along and do as you're told, Willis. We haven't got time to go translating your babble today.
And go out the back door, Willis. And get corned beef if they don't have lunch tongue.
I hope Willis don't go talking like that before the professor. He'll disgrace us all.
Oh, there's not much chance he'll meet him. I suppose this stew will be all right, Jemima, for a few days till he's gone.
A few days' rest always improves the stew, if you ask me.
Well, we better hurry up. He'll be here any minute. Mind, the fire's almost out.
Lovely day.
Yeah, beautiful day.
Yeah, I'd really enjoy that boat trip, I must say.
Well, that's...
And this is Jemima Grimes from Hartley's Harbour, Professor. A community a few miles up the coast.
Hartley's Harbour. It's an old English name, Hartley. Well, so is Grimes, for that matter.
How do you do, Professor?
Now, straight off, I'm not going to have you calling me Professor.
Well, that's what Eli told us to call you, sir.
I gathered as much. Now, Mr. Whitten, this must stop. As I told you on the wharf, I came to observe the people of Pigeon Inlet as they are. Not as the coach to behave by you, as a public relations project for the Department of Tourism. No, ladies, now look. I prefer to be known as plain Mr. Bensvik.
Whatever you say, Professor.
Where's Uncle Finn?
He's upstairs. I'll give him a call.
Oh, don't trouble him, Mrs. Pryor. I'm feeling a little weary after my boat trip, so what I'd most appreciate would be a quiet nap before dinner.
Dinner? But we've already had dinner, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What she means, Professor, is that we already had lunch. See, some people around here calls lunch dinner and dinner supper. I know it's wrong.
It's not wrong at all. It's perfectly acceptable in Australia. Now, give me a call when you're ready, Mrs. Pryor. I look forward to meeting your husband then.
Silas Bartlett didn't have any lunch tongue left, so I got corned beef like I said. Oh,
Thank
excuse
you,
me.
Willis.
I'll go wait in the kitchen, Willis.
Sorry about dirtying over carpets the first time when I came in, Mr. Pryor.
What extraction's that young man, Mrs. Pryor?
Extraction?
Willis is from Pigeon Inlet, like the rest of us, sir.
But what language is he speaking?
Willis can only speak English, Professor.
Now, Mrs. Grimes, I'm a dialectician and grammarian of some international reputation. And I could assure you that that was not English.
It must have been, Professor. That's all he knows. We're always after him about talking too fast.
Did you understand what he said?
Something about not getting the right message at the store, I believe. But I wouldn't swear on it.
Extraordinary. Well, what's his last name?
Snooks. Willis Snooks.
Positively Dickensian. Oh, Mrs. Pryor. I wonder if we might have Willis stay for dinner. I'd like to hear him again.
You mean supper, Professor?
Yes, of course. Supper. I'll be glad to pay the cost.
Oh, no, Professor. Willis is always welcome here.
So, I'm to meet the fastest talker and the greatest storyteller in Pigeon Inlet all at the same time. I'm going to need my nap. You're going to be here too, are you, Eli?
Oh, yes. Yes, sir. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Here's the glass they were in. I rinsed it and put it back up in the cupboard. Your teeth weren't in it, Finn. For sure I would have noticed.
Keep looking. They gotta be around here somewhere.
I found a dead mouse in trap under the sink.
What's going on here?
Finn lost his false teeth and we can't find him.
For heaven's sakes, Finn, have you got another pair?
No, I haven't. What do you think? I'm a millionaire.
Willis found a dead mouse under the sink. Ah!
Give me that before somebody sees it. Them teeth must be around here somewhere, Finn.
I say he left him upstairs in the pocket of his old pants.
I gave them to her to soak in a glass of water before I left, and she put them right up there on the warmer.
Quiet, you'll wake the professor.
That's where they are, in the stove. I was putting in a few junks when you knocked on the door.
Hey,
They must have fallen in somehow.
They must have popped right into the fire.
But they fell in here half an hour ago, Bertha. There's nothing left of them now.
The white stuff wouldn't melt. The porcelain.
Certainly didn't take that much long to go. Not a sign of them.
You said something about a house or a mouse, young man. I distinctly heard that OU sound.
Oh, we're not looking for the mouse, so we're trying to see Uncle Fintita in there.
Professor, did you have a nice nap?
Yes, I fell sound asleep. When I woke, my watch had stopped. So I thought I'd better come right down in case I missed dinner entirely. Somebody lost something.
Uncle Phil Lassie's fast eating stove, nobody figures him out down by now.
I couldn't get a word of that. Could you, Mrs. Pryor?
No, not a word, Professor.
Oh, and this must be your famous storytelling husband. I'm looking forward to having dinner together. Eli tells me that you're a veritable storehouse of Newfoundland folklore. I hope you don't mind if I use my tape recorder on you.
Jemima, show the professor his place at the table.
What am I gonna do?
You can't go telling stories with no teeth. You'll have to eat out here.
He can't do that. The Professor will ask why.
I can't eat in here. I can't chew anything. I'll have to stay out here.
Oh, no, go on in. Just don't open your mouth. I'll think of some excuse.
Go on in. The man is famished for his supper.
Excuse me, Mrs. Pryor. I hope you don't think it impolite of me to ask, but the rest of you don't seem to be having Mrs. Grimes's potato salad. What is that you're all eating?
Oh, these are only cod tongues, Professor.
Eli paid me 50 cents to bring them over for your supper.
Cod tongues? I think it's actually cod tongues. I've heard of them. I don't suppose you have any more out in the kitchen, Mrs. Pryor. I'd love to try them instead of...
Oh, my heavens. We served them all up, Professor. There wasn't that many, what with Willis and Eli staying over.
Oh, well, never mind.
Here you go, Professor. Uncle Finn ain't gonna touch his. And besides, he can get cod tongues any old day of the week.
If you're sure, Mr. Pryor.
Sure, he's sure. And he can have my beef potato salad. He falls right weak for that, don't you, Finn?
Well, cod tongues. Delicious. Delicate. Did you know, Eli? Greta Garbo used to send all the way down here during the war for these, and she was Queen of Hollywood.
Greta Garbo. Now, there's a story.
Speaking of stories, Mr. Pryor, what about Grandpa Walcott and the algebra slippers? That's one of the things I came to hear. You're not eating your salad either. Is there something wrong?
I guess he's just not in the mood for any storytelling tonight, Professor.
Why ever not? Is it me? Is it something I've said or done, Mr. Pryor?
He's just a bit shy in front of strangers at first, Professor. The cat got his tongue.
No, the professor got his tongue and the mouse got his teeth.
There's that OU sound again. Something about mouse and teeth.
Eat your supper, Willis.
What did Willis just say, Eli? What was it all about?
I can hardly tell what Willis is saying, Professor.
Aha, but I think I can. He's trying to tell me what the rest of you are too polite to say, that I shouldn't have taken my host's meal of cod tongues.
Oh, Finn wouldn't mind you having them, Professor. Would you, Finn?
Of course he would, Mrs. Pryor, when he was forced to eat that disgusting mess in exchange. Oh, good heavens. Excuse me, Mrs. Grimes. Now I'm insulting everyone.
Oh, that's all right. No one likes my salad very much.
It isn't anything like that, Professor.
Yes, it is, Eli, and you're not helping by pretending it isn't. I do apologize, Mr. Pryor. I thoughtlessly took your meal, literally from your mouth, without even having the courtesy to ask your permission. You've every right not to speak to me. Please accept my apology.
I think you've got it all wrong, Professor.
No, I haven't. I'm right, aren't I, Mr. Pryor? That's why you won't talk at this meal. Honor, Eli. Public and personal honor. A sacred tradition with people who live by the sea.
Yes. I guess it is.
There. Now, that's more comfortable. Now, Mrs. Grimes, you insist that my taking Mr. Pryor's cod tongue supper is not the reason why he won't talk to me.
No, Professor. He doesn't talk to anyone. And besides, we weren't even going to have them old cod tongues till Eli sent them over.
Well, what were we going to have for supper?
We were going to have rabbit stew.
Rabbit stew? Then why didn't we, pray tell?
Perhaps I'm talking too much, Professor, especially with that recording machine on.
Never mind the tape recorder. Why didn't we have the rabbits, Mrs. Grimes?
Because Eli said, as you were from Australia, they'd turn your stomach and you wouldn't eat them.
I wouldn't eat them.
No. But after poor old Finn going through all the trouble of going into woods and trapping them out of season, when he heard you were coming.
So that's it. Not only is my host's offer of precious wild game secured at no small personal risk rejected on my behalf, he ends up having to eat your...
My potato salad.
Enough, if you'll forgive me, Mrs. Grimes, to turn Willis into a Trappist monk. Eli, Mrs. Pryor, Willis, attend. You are summoned to judgment.
I'm sorry, he got it all out of me.
What's all this, Mr. Whitten, about me not eating rabbit?
I'm sorry, Professor. I thought Australians...
I'm not an Australian. I have merely been working at the University of Melbourne for a number of years. I am a Britisher who is extremely fond of wild rabbit. A dish, I might add, that I've not had the privilege of tasting in over 20 years.
We just wanted to please you, Professor.
You will please me, Mrs. Pryor, by serving up that rabbit stew tomorrow evening for dinner.
You mean supper, sir?
Supper, where I intend to make a formal apology to your husband in front of you all for abusing his hospitality. And you will please me, Eli, by not trying to stage manage my visit to Pigeon Inlet and present me with your heartless, sanitized version of rural Newfoundland.
You got it all wrong, Professor. It's not Eli's fault. Uncle Finn likes
shut
to-
up,
There
Willis.
you go again, stopping this poor boy from speaking to me.
Oh, what's the point? You can't understand what he says anyway.
But surely we should try. By ignoring his every attempt at conversation, you're the very one who's making him talk fast. All of you.
How?
Well, he has to get everything out before he's cut off. A condition probably enforced by unthinking parents at home.
It's a load of cod swallop if ever I heard it.
I beg your pardon?
Willis talks like he does because his father talks like it too. Not because anybody's cruel to him.
Why not let Willis answer for himself? Are you ignored or treated badly at home when you try to say something?
The old man gives me an odd knock every once in a while for talking too much, but apart from that, we get along fine.
He said no.
No? He gives a lengthy and possibly intelligent explanation, and you reduce it to no? More rejection.
Look, Professor, you might have a lot of training in how people talks. But I got enough common sense to know that Willis doesn't go on the way he does because anybody's cruel to him.
Well, what's your theory, then?
Well, I haven't got a theory, but I got an explanation. That young fellow, like everyone else around here, spent half his lifetime on the water with his old man in a 50-mile-an-hour gale of wind. Out there, you got something to say, you get it over with as quick as you can. That's why he spits it out so fast. Not because anybody's ignoring him.
Oh, but then don't you better fight, you give me a set on your hand.
See? We can all do it like Willis when we gets excited. We're just trying to get him to take it easy so we don't have to strain our ears every time he talks.
But can you maintain proper diction at that speed? Or have you developed some sort of environmental patois?
If you had a way of slowing Willis down, Professor, you'd find out that he's speaking the best kind of English. Give or take a few rules.
As a matter of fact, we do have a way of slowing him down. I've been taping this conversation. I'll run back his part and play it back at a reduced speed.
The old man gives me an odd knock for yapping too much, but apart from that, we gets along fine.
Excellent diction. Incredible how he can maintain it at that speed.
You know, when we really want him to slow down, we get him to sing what he has to say.
Fascinating. You've been trying to say something all evening. Why not sing it? Or tell it to me by tape recorder.
Why don't you sing a psalm or something for the Professor instead, Willis, and never mind the rest of it?
No. Using song to comment on the day's community events is pure folklore, Eli. Leave him alone, and I'll tape it for comparison.
The only thing I know off by heart is this great jigging ground, Willis, and you'll have to work to that.
Uncle Finn lost his teeth in the fire this morning. That's why he won't talk and tell stories all day.
Damn! I didn't have my record button on. Could you try it again, Willis?
Uncle Finn lost his teeth in the fire this morning. That's why he won't talk and tell stories all day.
Willis, what's happened?
I think he had too many cat tongues.
You know they can't be under there. Willis searched all the cupboards yesterday.
They got to be around the kitchen here somewhere, girl. I checked the ashes in the stove this morning, and they never fell in there, Bertha.
Here we are, Mrs. Pryor. Home again.
Oh, good afternoon, Professor. We were just wondering about you. Supper's all ready.
I've worked up a tremendous appetite, Mrs. Pryor. Willis took me to Frenchman's Lookout.
And Grandpa Walcott treated us to some wonderful yarns I never heard of before.
And Willis is starting to slow down. Aren't you, Willis?
You said you understood 40 sentences I said today.
He doesn't sound much different to me, Professor.
I don't think Willis is slowing down, Professor. I think your ears are speeding up like the rest of us.
Nonsense. I can detect a distinct difference, eh?
Sit right in while everything is hot.
Jemima made some of her special dumplings, and here's your rabbit stew.
They look marvelously fluffy, Mrs. Grimes. Ah, and here is my host. I would like to make a formal apology, Mr. Pryor, for taking your cod tongue supper yesterday evening. I understand why you won't talk to me, but please be assured I'm seeking for a way to make it up to you. Thank you, sir.
We thank thee for thy bounty, Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
I'm looking forward to feasting in them dumplings.
We had a grand day, Finn. Grandpa Walcott was in a real storytelling mood.
I recorded him, Mr. Pryor. It's incredible how his accent is still so reminiscent of Kent and Devon after 400 years of isolation here.
Now, Finn, don't be so ignorant. The first plate is the professor's.
My, beautiful porcelain, Mrs. Pryor.
What was that, Professor?
Your tureen, Mrs. Pryor. Absolutely beautiful.
Great-grandfather Silas Pryor brought that over from the old country.
Ah.
Didn't he, Bertha?
That's it, Mr. Pryor. I took your dinner yesterday, and now you must have mine in exchange. Please, allow me.
That's really not necessary, Professor.
I know, Mrs. Pryor, that your innate sense of hospitality prompts you to serve your guest first, but that honor should really be reserved for the head of the household.
Did you see that? This one got things up a plate.
Something about a plate.
Yes, Willis. I gave my plate to the head of the household, who should always be served first. It's an old Devon custom, handed down from the Normans. Does that make us friends now, Mr. Pryor?
It sure does, Professor. You're a fine gentleman, and I'm glad to meet you. I got a lot of good yarns to tell you.
Wonderful. At last, I'm going to hear what I've come for.
You certainly are.
I was talking about his other plate. Oh.
Now, did I ever tell you the time of Luke Rumble's wife? She won the radio contest.
Jemima said she's really sorry she didn't get over to see you off.
Well, tell her I'll keep the recipe for those dumplings a state secret. Well, thank you for having me.
It's been great having you, Professor, and sorry about our little misunderstanding.
Oh, it's no problem. And Eli, remember, no more prompting and coaching when strangers visit.
I'll leave the people the way they are. If you will, too.
It's a bargain.
Your father just got him fish on. Why did you meet him before you go?
His father.
William Tom John, I tried to go ahead of 1% long boy.
Willis has told me a lot about his news. I'm glad to meet you, too. One I can cope with, but not two.
I think you better catch that boat while the going is good, Professor.
Ah, well. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks.
Get away, father. I'm going to carry man's bags on the mailboat.
But put it on the car, but